Riley Summers bolted through the marble hallways of Matthews Corporation, like her entire future depended on it, which it absolutely did. The disaster began when she overheard Tiffany from accounting whispering near the elevators. "Did you know Riley's having a secret fling with Mr. Matthews?" The gossip was so ridiculous that Riley nearly choked on her iced coffee. She couldn't even present monthly reports without stumbling over every single word, much less have a romance. When she tried correcting the record, she accidentally toppled the reception desk plant display, sent succulents sailing across the lobby, and in complete desperation announced, "I'm not dating anyone in this building," right as the senior partners stepped out of their strategy meeting. 4 hours later, 1/3 of the staff believed Riley was having an emotional crisis. Another third suspected she was involved in corporate espionage. The remaining third had convinced themselves she was secretly married to someone scandalous. "I need to vanish until this circus ends," she muttered, desperately hunting for refuge. The top executive floor sat empty at 6:45 p.m. Perfect timing. Riley shoved through the first impressive door she encountered and stumbled inside, heart pounding. The office was breathtaking. Panoramic views of downtown Chicago, furniture worth more than her annual salary, and an aura of serious power. Only after steadying herself did she spot the gleaming nameplate, Cooper Matthews, President and CEO. Wonderful. Absolutely spectacular. Footsteps resonated from the corridor. Complete panic mode activated. Riley launched herself beneath the massive walnut desk, desperately hoping to become invisible. Particularly before the office's formidable owner arrived, the door opened with quiet authority. "Precisely. I need those projections by 8 tonight. 0 delays accepted. I don't care if your goldfish is having an existential crisis." That distinctly commanding tone made Riley compress herself into human origami. Cooper Matthews, the executive who reorganized failing companies before lunch, stood directly above her cramped hiding spot. She attempted remaining perfectly motionless, but her ankle was cramping severely. She tried the slightest position shift and... snap. The quiet became overwhelming. "Henderson? Henderson?" The speakerphone voice grew fainter. "Mr. Matthews?" Riley stopped breathing entirely. Maybe if I achieve complete stillness, he'll think it was the building settling. "Let me call back." Phone clicked off decisively. Expensive footsteps moved closer. Leather chair creaked under weight. And then... "You can come out now." Riley's stomach dropped to her shoes. Discovered by Chicago's most intimidating business mogul, this would definitely make her career disasters highlight reel. Riley crawled out from under the desk like a disheveled turtle emerging from its shell. Hair resembling a bird's nest, skirt wrinkled beyond recognition, dignity completely MIA. Cooper Matthews sat in his executive chair, studying her with the expression of someone who'd just discovered an exotic new species of office wildlife. His steel-gray eyes analyzed her with surgical precision. "Miss Summers, Riley Summers, Marketing Department." The words tumbled out in a frantic rush. "Look, I can totally explain this. Please do." She took a shaky breath. How could she possibly explain that she was hiding from half the company because they thought she was secretly involved with him? "I'm escaping from a misunderstanding." What kind of misunderstanding? The kind involving office gossip, flying plants, and people assuming that you and I are, well, that we're... She gestured awkwardly between them. One perfectly groomed eyebrow arched upward. "That we're what, exactly?" "Romantically involved." The admission dropped like a brick. The silence that followed was so thick Riley considered whether jumping out the window might be her best career move. "I see." He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "And you decided that hiding in my private office was the most logical solution?" Actually, it wasn't really a decision. More like survival instinct kicking in. Cooper studied her face for what felt like several geological eras. Riley braced herself for immediate termination, security escort, possibly even a restraining order. "Take a seat." "Excuse me?" "Sit down, Miss Summers. Let's address this misunderstanding properly. Riley perched on the edge of the chair, still in complete shock. Cooper opened his laptop and began typing with swift, precise keystrokes. "Are you composing my termination email?" she asked, trying not to sound completely hysterical. "I'm rescheduling my evening conference call." "Why would you do that?" He looked directly at her, and something flickered in those intimidating gray eyes. "Because apparently I've acquired a secret girlfriend, and I need to understand exactly how this happened." Riley's heart performed several unauthorized acrobatics. "Secret girlfriend? I've received 7 messages in the last hour asking about our discreet relationship. My assistant called wanting to know your flower preferences. And my business partner just texted asking when he should expect wedding invitations." Riley buried her face in her hands. "This is a complete nightmare. I'm so sorry. I'll fix everything. Send a company-wide email, make announcements, skywrite the truth if necessary." "No." She looked up sharply. "No?" Cooper stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, hands clasped behind his back. "I have a better proposition." "What kind of proposition?" Riley asked suspiciously. He turned around, and for the first time since she'd known of his existence, he smiled. A small, almost imperceptible smile that completely transformed his austere features. "What if we let them believe it's true?" Riley's brain short-circuited. "What?" "Think strategically." Cooper returned to his desk, switching to full executive mode. "You want the gossip to stop. I need people to quit trying to set me up at every corporate function. My mother calls weekly with perfect daughter-in-law candidates. Board members' wives constantly invite their unmarried relatives to company events. So you want to fake date? A temporary business arrangement. 6 months should suffice, long enough for people to lose interest and move on to other topics." Riley stared at him like he'd just suggested they join the circus. "You're completely serious." "I'm always serious, Miss Summers." "The question is, are you interested in solving both our problems?" Riley's mind raced. On one hand, this was absolutely insane. On the other hand, Cooper Matthews was offering to save her career instead of destroying it. What exactly would this arrangement involve? Professional appearances at company functions, occasional lunch meetings, nothing inappropriate or complicated. "And what do I get out of this besides clearing my reputation?" Cooper's smile widened slightly. "A substantial promotion to senior marketing coordinator. Better salary, corner office, direct reporting to department heads." Riley's jaw dropped. "You're bribing me to be your fake girlfriend?" "I prefer calling it mutually beneficial employment enhancement." She stood up, pacing to the window. The Chicago skyline twinkled below, full of possibilities and terrible ideas. "This is crazy." "Probably. It could backfire spectacularly. Most good business ventures involve calculated risks." Riley turned back to face him. Cooper Matthews, the most powerful, intimidating, and unexpectedly attractive man in corporate Chicago, was waiting for her answer. 6 months? Maximum. Professional appearances only? Completely professional. She extended her hand. "All right, Mr. Matthews, you've got yourself a deal." When their hands touched, Riley felt an unexpected jolt of electricity shoot up her arm. Based on the way Cooper's eyes widened slightly, he felt it too. This arrangement was going to be anything but simple. Riley arrived at Matthews Corporation the next morning, feeling like she'd made a deal with the devil himself. Except the devil wore $1,000 suits and had unexpectedly warm hands. She'd barely made it to her desk when Melissa from HR materialized like a gossip-seeking missile. "Riley, I heard the most incredible news." Melissa's voice carried across half the floor. "You and Mr. Matthews are dating." "Well, I wouldn't exactly say, 'This is so romantic, how did it happen? When did it start? Are you moving in together?'" Riley's coffee mug froze halfway to her lips. "Moving in together? Who said anything about—" "Good morning, sweetheart." The deep, familiar voice made Riley spin around so fast she nearly gave herself whiplash. Cooper Matthews stood behind her, looking devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit, that probably cost more than her rent. "Cooper!" She squeaked his name like a surprised mouse. "What are you doing down here?" He stepped closer, and Riley caught a whiff of his cologne, something expensive and entirely too appealing. "I brought you coffee." He held out a cup from Chicago's most exclusive cafe. "The way you like it." Riley stared at the cup. She had no idea how she liked her coffee according to Cooper Matthews, but she took it anyway. "That's very thoughtful. Anything for my girl." He leaned down and kissed her forehead. Riley's brain completely malfunctioned. The kiss was soft, brief, and sent shockwaves through her entire nervous system. Around them, she could hear the collective gasp of at least 12 co-workers. "I'll see you at lunch," Cooper murmured, loud enough for everyone to hear. 1 o'clock at Bistro Laurent? Bistro Laurent? Riley's voice cracked. That was the most expensive restaurant in downtown Chicago. "Isn't that a bit?" "Perfect. I'll make reservations." He squeezed her hand gently. "Have a wonderful morning, Riley." He walked away with the confidence of a man who owned the world, leaving Riley standing there with 20 pairs of eyes boring into her. The second the elevator doors closed, chaos erupted. "Riley, you dark horse! How long has this been going on? Is he a good kisser? Are you getting married? Can you get me a promotion?" Riley held up her hands desperately. "Everyone, please, it's really not what? Not serious?" This came from Janet, the office cynic. "Honey, Cooper Matthews doesn't bring coffee to random employees. He doesn't even know most of our names." "It's complicated," Riley managed weakly. "Complicated how?" Melissa pressed. "You're either dating Chicago's most eligible bachelor or you're not." Riley's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced down and nearly choked. "Cooper. Emergency. My mother just called. She's driving up from Springfield this weekend to meet my lovely girlfriend. We need to talk, now." "I have to go," Riley announced, grabbing her purse. "Where are you going?" 3 voices asked simultaneously. "To handle something complicated." She practically sprinted to the elevator, jabbing the button for the executive floor. When the doors opened, Cooper's assistant, Margaret, smiled at her warmly. "Miss Summers, how wonderful to finally meet you officially. Mr. Matthews has told us so much about you." Riley blinked. "He has." "Of course. We're all so happy he's found someone special. You can go right in. He's expecting you." Riley knocked on Cooper's door and entered to find him pacing behind his desk like a caged tiger. "Your mother is coming?" she blurted out. "This weekend she wants to take us to dinner at the country club." He stopped pacing and looked at her with mild panic in his eyes. "My mother, Riley. She once interrogated my high school girlfriend so thoroughly the poor girl changed schools." "Okay, but we can handle one dinner, right? How hard can it be?" Cooper's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and his face went pale. "It's my sister. She probably already knows," he answered with forced cheerfulness. "Hi, Amanda." Even from across the room, Riley could hear the excited shrieking from the phone. "Yes, I'm seeing someone. Her name is Riley." "No, you can't plan the wedding yet." "Amanda, please." He held the phone away from his ear as more shrieking ensued. "She's driving up with Mom," he said after hanging up. "They want to take us dress shopping." "Dress shopping?" Riley's voice hit a pitch only dogs could hear. "For the country club dinner. Apparently my wardrobe choices for you require sisterly supervision." Riley sank into the chair across from his desk. "Cooper, what have we gotten ourselves into?" Before he could answer, his office door burst open. Margaret stumbled in, looking flustered. "Mr. Matthews, I'm so sorry, but there are reporters in the lobby asking about you and Miss Summers." "Something about Chicago's power couple?" Cooper and Riley stared at each other in mutual horror. "Reporters?" Riley whispered. "The Chicago Tribune business section wants an exclusive interview about your relationship," Margaret continued breathlessly. "And Chicago Magazine called about featuring you two in their Power Couples of the Midwest article." Riley's fake coffee cup slipped from her numb fingers and crashed to the floor, sending expensive liquid everywhere. "This is a disaster," she moaned. Cooper grabbed her hand and pulled her toward his private bathroom. We need a new plan. Fast. As they huddled together trying to clean coffee off her skirt, Riley couldn't help but notice how close they were standing, and how good he smelled, and how his hands were surprisingly gentle as he helped with the cleanup. Riley. Yeah? I think we might be in over our heads. She looked up at him, their faces inches apart, and felt that same electric jolt from yesterday. You think? The bathroom door was thin, and they could hear Margaret fielding phone calls outside. Yes, they're very much in love. No comment on wedding plans. I'll have to check their schedule. Riley leaned against the marble counter and started laughing. Not happy laughter. The slightly hysterical kind that happens when your life becomes a complete circus. What's so funny? Cooper asked. Yesterday I was worried about a little office gossip. Now I'm apparently Chicago's newest power couple. Your mother wants to meet me, your sister wants to plan our wedding, and there are reporters downstairs. Cooper studied her face, and slowly, amazingly, he started laughing too. A real, genuine laugh that transformed his entire face. When you put it that way, he said, we're completely screwed. Completely, Riley agreed, still giggling. And somehow, standing in Cooper Matthews's private bathroom, laughing about their mutual doom, Riley realized this fake relationship was going to be anything but boring. Saturday arrived like an unwelcome tornado, and Riley stood in front of her bathroom mirror wondering if witness protection was a viable career change. Cooper had texted her the night before. My mother and sister arrive at 10 a.m., lunch at 12, country club dinner at 7, survive today and I'll give you a raise. Riley had responded, make it 2 raises and hazard pay. His reply had been immediate, deal. Try not to let them terrify you. Now, staring at her reflection in her cramped studio apartment, Riley realized she was about to meet the family of Chicago's most eligible bachelor while pretending to be madly in love with him. The same man who, until 3 days ago, she'd been too nervous to make eye contact with. Her phone buzzed. Cooper again. They're early. Hiding in my office. Send backup. Riley grabbed her purse and headed for the door, but not before catching sight of herself in the hallway mirror. She looked like she was dressed for a job interview, not a romantic weekend with her supposed boyfriend. 20 minutes later, she stood outside Cooper's apartment building on the Gold Coast, staring up at the gleaming tower that probably cost more than most people's houses. The doorman, dressed better than most CEOs, greeted her by name. Miss Summers, Mr. Matthews is expecting you, penthouse level. The elevator ride felt like ascending to her execution. When the doors opened directly into Cooper's apartment, Riley's jaw hit the floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Lake Michigan. Modern art that belonged in museums adorned the walls, and everything was pristine white and chrome except for the 2 women currently terrorizing Cooper in his living room. Riley! Cooper practically leaped from the sofa, relief flooding his face. You're here! A woman who could only be his mother turned around, and Riley immediately understood where Cooper got his intimidating presence. Matthews was elegant, sharp-eyed, and looked like she could run a Fortune 500 company before breakfast. So you're the mysterious Riley we've heard absolutely nothing about, she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. Mom, Cooper warned. What? I'm just surprised my son has been hiding such a lovely girl from his family. Her smile was warm but calculating. I'm Patricia Matthews, and this is Amanda, Cooper's sister. Amanda was a younger, more energetic version of her mother, practically bouncing with excitement. Riley, I have so many questions. How did you 2 meet? When did you know he was the one? Have you thought about children? Cooper would make such a good father, don't you think? Amanda, Cooper's voice held a note of desperation. Riley felt like she was facing a firing squad armed with curiosity and wedding magazines. Well, we met at the office. Cooper jumped in smoothly, moving to stand beside Riley. His hand found the small of her back, and the warmth of his touch sent unexpected shivers up her spine. Riley works in our marketing department. How romantic, Amanda clapped her hands together. Office romance, like a movie. More like a disaster waiting to happen, Patricia murmured, but her eyes were studying Riley with keen interest. Tell me, dear, what do you think of my son's complete inability to relax? The boy hasn't taken a real vacation in 3 years. Riley looked up at Cooper, surprised to see a faint blush coloring his cheeks. This was a side of him she'd never imagined, the son being gently scolded by his mother. Actually, Riley heard herself saying, I've been trying to convince him to take more breaks. Maybe a weekend getaway somewhere. Cooper's eyes widened slightly, but he played along. Riley thinks I work too much. Smart girl, Patricia approved. Cooper has always been too serious for his own good. Even as a child, he organized his toy cars by make and model. Mom, Cooper groaned. And remember when he was 12 and created a business plan for his lemonade stand? Amanda added gleefully. Complete with market analysis and profit projections? Riley couldn't help but smile. That's actually kind of adorable. Adorable? Cooper looked mortified. It was efficient. It was nerdy, Amanda corrected. But apparently Riley likes nerdy, so that works out perfectly. Before Cooper could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression grew serious. I need to take this. Work emergency. He stepped into his home office, leaving Riley alone with his family. The silence that followed felt loaded with unspoken questions. So, Patricia said, settling back into her chair like a queen holding court, how serious are you two? Riley's mouth went dry. Serious? Are you in love with my son, Riley? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Riley looked toward Cooper's office, where she could hear him discussing quarterly projections with someone, then back at Patricia's expectant face. Riley started, then stopped. How was she supposed to answer that? They weren't really dating, but something had been shifting between them these past few days. The way he'd brought her coffee, the gentle forehead kiss, the way he'd laughed with her in his bathroom yesterday. It's complicated, she said finally. Patricia's eyebrows rose. Complicated how? We're still figuring things out, Riley said, which was technically true. Your son is, well, he's not exactly easy to read. That's putting it mildly, Amanda snorted. Cooper's about as emotionally expressive as a stone statue. How do you even know he likes you? Riley thought about the way Cooper had looked at her yesterday, the way his hand had felt on her back just minutes ago, the way he'd smiled at her, really smiled for the first time. Little things, she said softly. He pays attention to details. He notices when I'm stressed. And when he actually smiles, I mean really smiles, it's what? Patricia prompted. It's worth waiting for. Both women stared at her for a moment, then exchanged a meaningful look. Well, Patricia said slowly, that might be the most accurate description of Cooper I've ever heard. Cooper emerged from his office, looking frustrated. Sorry about that. Crisis in the Tokyo division. Everything okay? Riley asked, and was surprised by how genuinely concerned she sounded. Just the usual chaos. Nothing that can't wait until Monday. He looked between his mother and Riley. Everything okay out here? Just getting to know your girlfriend, Patricia said smoothly. She's quite charming, Cooper. I told you she was special, Cooper said, and the way he looked at Riley made her heart do funny little flips. Well then, Amanda jumped up. We should head to lunch. I made reservations at that new place on Michigan Avenue. And then shopping. Riley needs something stunning for dinner tonight. Shopping? Riley squeaked. Of course, you can't wear... Amanda gestured vaguely at Riley's conservative blouse and skirt. That to the country club. The Hendersons will be there, and Margaret Stevenson, and you know how they talk. Riley had no idea who the Hendersons or Margaret Stevenson were, but they sounded terrifying. I'm sure Riley looks beautiful in anything, Cooper said gallantly, earning another approving look from his mother. That's sweet, honey, Patricia said, but Amanda's right. The country club crowd can be particular. Don't worry, dear, she said to Riley. We'll find you something perfect. 2 hours later, Riley found herself in the most expensive boutique she'd ever entered, being dressed like a life-size doll by Amanda, while Patricia offered commentary from a velvet chair. "Try the blue one," Amanda called through the dressing room curtain. "The blue one costs more than my car," Riley called back. "Cooper can afford it," Patricia said dismissively. "The boy has more money than he knows what to do with." Riley emerged wearing a stunning sapphire dress that hugged her curves in all the right places and made her eyes look like jewels. "Perfect," Amanda squealed. "Cooper's going to die when he sees you in that." "Literally die," Patricia agreed with satisfaction. "My son may be brilliant with business, but he's hopeless with women. He needs someone who can shake him up a little." Riley stared at herself in the three-way mirror. The woman looking back at her looked confident, sophisticated, and nothing like the Riley who'd hidden under Cooper's desk 3 days ago. "I don't know," she said uncertainly. "Trust us," Amanda said firmly. "We know Cooper better than anyone. He needs someone real, someone who doesn't care about his money or his title, someone who sees him for who he actually is." "And you do, don't you, dear?" Patricia asked quietly. "See him for who he is?" Riley thought about Cooper pacing his office yesterday, vulnerable and slightly panicked about his mother's visit. She thought about the way he'd laughed in the bathroom and how he'd held her hand when they made their crazy deal. "Yeah," she said softly. "I think I do." When they returned to Cooper's apartment laden with shopping bags, they found him in his kitchen, sleeves rolled up, actually cooking. "Cooper cooks?" Amanda gasped in mock horror. "Riley, what have you done to our brother?" Cooper looked up from the stove, and when his eyes landed on Riley, still wearing the blue dress, his wooden spoon clattered to the floor. "Wow," he said quietly. "You look... wow." Riley felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Your sister and mother have very expensive taste. It's perfect," he said, not looking away from her face. "You're perfect." The kitchen fell silent except for something sizzling on the stove. "Well," Patricia said briskly, "I think we'll go freshen up before dinner. Come along, Amanda." When they were alone, Cooper moved closer to Riley, his eyes still wide with something that looked like wonder. "You really do look incredible," he said softly. "Cooper," Riley started, not sure what she wanted to say. "I know this is all fake," he said quickly, "but when I saw you in that dress for a second I forgot we were just pretending." Riley's heart hammered against her ribs. "Did you?" "Yeah." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Did you?" Before Riley could answer, Amanda's voice rang out from the hallway. "Cooper, something's burning." They sprang apart as smoke began pouring from the pan on the stove. Cooper lunged for the burner while Riley opened windows, both of them laughing as they tried to salvage dinner. "So much for impressing them with my culinary skills," Cooper said ruefully, scraping burned vegetables into the trash. "I think they're already impressed," Riley said. "Your mother likes me." "She does?" Cooper looked genuinely surprised. "She thinks I'm good for you, something about shaking you up." Cooper grinned and Riley's stomach did those flips again. "Well, you've definitely done that." Their eyes met across the smoky kitchen, and for a moment Riley forgot this was all an elaborate charade. For a moment it felt completely real. Then Amanda bounced back into the kitchen, took one look at the disaster, and burst out laughing. "Well," she announced, "looks like we're ordering pizza before we go to the country club." And somehow, sitting around Cooper's dining table eating pizza with his family, laughing at the dinner disaster and listening to embarrassing childhood stories, Riley realized she was having the best fake date of her life. The Lakewood Country Club looked like something out of a movie, the kind where rich people made terrible decisions while wearing perfect outfits. Riley sat in Cooper's Tesla, staring at the imposing brick building with its manicured gardens and valet parking, feeling like she was about to walk into enemy territory. "You okay?" Cooper asked softly, his hand finding hers across the console. The simple touch sent warmth shooting up her arm, which was becoming an increasingly problematic side effect of their fake relationship. Just nervous about meeting Chicago's elite social circle while pretending to be madly in love with you. When you put it that way, it does sound terrifying. Cooper's thumb traced small circles on her knuckles, and Riley tried not to think about how natural the gesture felt. Just remember, we're crazy about each other, we've been secretly dating for months, and we're thinking about moving in together. Moving in together? Riley's voice cracked. Since when is that part of our story? Since my mother asked Amanda if she thought we were serious enough for cohabitation, and Amanda said absolutely. Cooper winced. I may have forgotten to mention that part during the pizza dinner. Riley closed her eyes and counted to 10. Cooper, we've been fake dating for exactly 4 days. 4 days. I know, but my mother has a sixth sense about these things. She can smell relationship uncertainty from a mile away. Great. So now I have to convince Chicago society that I'm ready to shack up with you? Cooper's grip on her hand tightened. Riley, if this is too much, we can still back out. I can tell them we had a fight, that things moved too fast. No. The word came out more forcefully than Riley intended. She looked at Cooper, really looked at him, and saw genuine concern in his gray eyes. Not for his reputation or his business deals, but for her. No, we've come this far. Besides, how hard can one dinner be? Famous last words. They'd barely made it through the valet station when disaster struck. As Riley stepped out of the car, her heel caught in a sidewalk grate. She pitched forward, arms windmilling wildly, directly toward a pristinely dressed couple who looked like they'd stepped out of a country club catalog. Cooper lunged forward, catching her around the waist and pulling her against his chest. For a moment, they stood frozen, her hands pressed against his suit jacket, his arms tight around her, their faces inches apart. Nice save, she breathed. I'm getting good at catching you, he murmured back, and something in his voice made her heart skip. Excuse me, a crisp voice interrupted. Cooper Matthews. They sprang apart to find the couple Riley had nearly flattened staring at them with undisguised curiosity. The woman was blonde, beautiful, and looked vaguely familiar. The man wore the kind of confident smile that suggested he was used to being the most important person in any room. Veronica, Cooper said, and Riley caught something tense in his voice. I didn't know you'd be here tonight. Richard's family has been members for decades, Veronica replied smoothly, then turned her attention to Riley with laser focus. And you must be the mysterious girlfriend we've all heard so much about. Riley felt Cooper stiffen beside her. Riley Summers, meet Veronica Ashford and her fiancé, Richard Pemberton. Fiancé? Riley shook hands with both of them, noting Veronica's grip was slightly too firm and lasted slightly too long. Just got engaged last month, Richard beamed, completely oblivious to the undercurrent swirling around them. Veronica and Cooper used to date, you know, years ago. The silence that followed was so awkward Riley could practically hear it screaming. Cooper's ex-girlfriend. Of course, because this evening wasn't complicated enough already. That was a long time ago, Cooper said evenly. Not that long. Veronica smiled, but her eyes remained calculating. We had some wonderful times together, didn't we? Remember that weekend in the Hamptons? Or that New Year's Eve party at the Ritz? Riley felt like she was watching a tennis match played with emotional grenades. Cooper's jaw was tight, his hand finding the small of her back in a gesture that was becoming familiar. Well, Riley said brightly, that's ancient history, right? I mean, Cooper and I are practically inseparable now. Aren't we, honey? She turned to Cooper with what she hoped was an adoring smile, went up on her toes and kissed him. It was supposed to be a quick, possessive little peck to mark her territory, but the moment their lips met, everything changed. Cooper's arms came around her immediately, pulling her closer, and what started as a fake kiss became something else entirely. Something that made her knees weak and her brain short-circuit, and her entire world narrow down to the man holding her like she was precious. When they finally broke apart, Riley was breathless and slightly dizzy. Cooper's eyes were dark and intense, studying her face like he was seeing her for the first time. Wow, Richard said admiringly. You two really are crazy about each other. Yes, Veronica's voice was cooler now. How passionate. We should head inside, Cooper said, his voice rougher than usual. My mother's waiting. As they walked toward the entrance, Cooper leaned down to whisper in Riley's ear. That was some performance. Performance, Riley repeated faintly, trying to ignore how his breath against her ear made her shiver. Right, performance. But neither of them sounded entirely convinced. The dining room was exactly what Riley had expected. Crystal chandeliers, starched white tablecloths, and enough old money to buy a small country. Patricia and Amanda were already seated at a table near the windows, deep in conversation with a distinguished older couple. Cooper! Patricia rose gracefully as they approached. Perfect timing. I want you and Riley to meet the Hendersons. Charles and Margaret. This is my son Cooper and his girlfriend Riley. Charles Henderson had the kind of firm handshake that suggested he crushed his business opponents for fun. Margaret looked like she could run the social registry with military precision. So you're the young lady who's finally captured our Cooper, Margaret said, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. We were beginning to think he was married to his work. Riley's helping him find better work-life balance, Patricia said proudly. How wonderful, Margaret continued. And what do you do, dear? I work in marketing, Riley said, taking her seat. At Matthews Corporation? Yes. Margaret and Charles exchanged a meaningful look. How convenient, Margaret murmured. Riley felt her cheeks burn. The implication was clear. Gold digger, office opportunist, social climber. Cooper's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. Riley's one of our most talented employees, he said firmly. She's being promoted to senior coordinator next month. How nice. Margaret's smile could have frozen Lake Michigan. A promotion and a boyfriend. What a fortunate coincidence. The conversation continued in that vein, polite on the surface, vicious underneath. Riley found herself fielding questions about her background, her family, her intentions with Cooper, all delivered with the kind of subtle cruelty that could only be perfected over generations of country club membership. So tell me, Charles said as their salads arrived, how long have you two been seeing each other? It seems rather sudden. Riley and Cooper exchanged a glance. About 6 months, Cooper said smoothly. 6 months? Margaret looked surprised. How secretive of you, Cooper. Usually these things get around. We wanted to keep it private initially, Riley said. You know how office relationships can be complicated. Oh, yes. Veronica's voice came from behind them. She and Richard had been seated at the next table, close enough to eavesdrop. Office relationships can be so messy. Don't you think, Cooper? Cooper's grip on Riley's hand tightened. Not when they're with the right person. The right person, Veronica repeated thoughtfully. Interesting concept. I always thought you preferred more sophisticated companionship. The insult was delivered so smoothly that it took a moment to register. Riley felt her temper spike. Oh, I can be very sophisticated, she said sweetly. Just last week I managed to organize an entire marketing campaign without color-coding my files. Cooper was so impressed he bought me coffee. Amanda snorted with laughter. Patricia's eyes gleamed with approval. Even Charles cracked a smile. Veronica's perfect smile faltered. How charming. Isn't she? Cooper's voice was warm with genuine affection. Riley keeps me on my toes. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of passive-aggressive comments and increasingly elaborate stories about their fake relationship. Riley found herself describing imaginary romantic getaways and invented relationship milestones with surprising creativity. And then, she was saying as dessert arrived, Cooper surprised me with a picnic in Millennium Park. He'd packed all my favorite foods and even brought a blanket. How thoughtful, Margaret said dryly. Cooper, I had no idea you were so romantic. Riley brings out a different side of me, Cooper said, and the way he looked at her made Riley's pulse stutter. Speaking of different sides, Veronica interjected, turning in her chair to face them fully. Cooper, Remember how you used to say you'd never date anyone from work? Something about maintaining professional boundaries? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Riley felt Cooper stiffen beside her. People change, he said carefully. Do they? Veronica's smile was razor sharp. Or do they just make exceptions for certain incentives? The implication was crystal clear. Riley felt humiliation burn through her chest, followed immediately by white-hot anger. You know what, Veronica? Riley set down her fork with deliberate calm. You're absolutely right. Cooper did make an exception for me. Want to know why? Riley, Cooper warned quietly. Because I'm the first woman he's met who doesn't care about his money or his connections, or his country club membership. Riley's voice carried across the dining room, drawing attention from nearby tables. I'm the first woman who actually listens when he talks about work, who notices when he's stressed, who cares more about making him laugh than impressing his business partners. She stood up, her blue dress shimmering under the chandeliers. And unlike some people, I don't need to tear down other women to feel good about myself. The silence was deafening. Riley realized the entire dining room was staring at them. I need some air, she announced, and walked toward the terrace doors with as much dignity as she could muster. The evening air was cool against her flushed cheeks. Riley gripped the stone railing and tried to steady her breathing. She just made a spectacle of herself in front of Chicago's social elite while defending a fake relationship. Footsteps approached behind her. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Cooper's voice was quiet. Riley didn't turn around. Probably both. He moved to stand beside her at the railing. For what it's worth, Veronica deserved every word. Your mother's going to hate me. The Hendersons think I'm a gold digger. And I just caused a scene at the most exclusive club in Chicago. My mother's probably planning to adopt you, Cooper said dryly. She's been waiting years for someone to put Veronica in her place. And the Hendersons' opinion stopped mattering to me about 5 minutes after we sat down. Riley finally looked at him. His tie was slightly loosened, his hair mussed from running his fingers through it, and he was looking at her like she'd just slayed a dragon. You're not angry? Angry. Cooper stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. Riley, what you said in there, about listening when I talk, about caring when I'm stressed, did you mean it? The question was soft, vulnerable, nothing like the confident CEO who ruled boardrooms. Yes, she whispered. I meant it. All of it? Riley's heart hammered as she realized what he was really asking. All of it. Cooper's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. This fake relationship is getting very complicated. Very complicated, she agreed breathlessly. Riley, Cooper, there you are. Amanda's voice shattered the moment as she burst through the terrace doors. Mom's handling damage control, but we should probably make our exit before Veronica recovers from that epic takedown. They sprang apart, both breathing hard. Amanda looked between them with sharp eyes. Did I interrupt something important? Just getting some air, Cooper said, but his voice was strained. Right. Amanda's smile was knowing. Well, for what it's worth, that was the most entertaining dinner I've attended in years. And Mom's planning to send Veronica a thank you card for giving Riley the opportunity to be so authentic. As they gathered their things and made their goodbyes, Riley caught Veronica watching them with calculating eyes. Margaret Henderson offered a grudging nod of respect, and Patricia kissed Riley's cheek and whispered, "Welcome to the family, dear." In the car on the way back to the city, Cooper was unusually quiet. Riley stared out the window at the lights of Chicago, replaying every moment of the evening. Thank you, Cooper said finally. For what? For defending us, even when it wasn't real. Riley turned to look at his profile in the dashboard lights. Cooper? Yeah? What if it wasn't entirely fake? The car swerved slightly as Cooper's attention snapped to her. What? What if some of it was real? Cooper pulled over to the curb and put the car in park. In the sudden silence, Riley could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Riley, he said carefully, are you saying what I think you're saying? I don't know, she whispered. "I'm so confused. This was supposed to be fake, but somewhere between your mother's interrogation and tonight's disaster, it started feeling real. You started feeling real." Cooper reached for her hands, holding them gently in his larger ones. "You want to know something? When Veronica was tearing you down tonight, I wanted to throw Richard's dinner plate at her. When you stood up to defend us, I was so proud I couldn't see straight. And when I kissed you earlier..." He paused, swallowing hard. "That wasn't fake, Riley. Not even a little bit." "It wasn't? Not for a second." Riley stared at him in the dim light of the street lamps. This man who'd started as her intimidating boss, and somehow become someone she was falling for despite every logical reason not to. "So what do we do now?" she asked. Cooper's smile was soft and real and entirely different from his corporate mask. "I guess we find out what happens when fake becomes real." He leaned across the console and kissed her again, slow and sweet and full of promise. And this time, Riley didn't have to pretend anything at all. Monday morning arrived like a symphony of possibility, and Riley woke up in her tiny studio apartment with a smile so enormous it felt like it might split her face in half. She'd spent the night replaying every moment from the country club, Cooper's confession in the car, the way he'd looked at her like she'd hung the moon, the taste of his kiss when he finally admitted their fake relationship had become beautifully, wonderfully real. Her phone buzzed against the nightstand and she practically lunged for it. "Good morning, my absolutely real girlfriend. I've been awake for 2 hours thinking about you, which is either romantic or slightly concerning. Coffee in my office in an hour? We need to figure out how to handle being genuinely crazy about each other without causing a corporate uprising." Your completely smitten fake boyfriend turned real boyfriend Riley's heart performed what felt like an entire Olympic gymnastics routine as she typed back, "Your equally smitten real girlfriend will be there with bells on. Fair warning. I haven't stopped smiling since last night and it's starting to hurt my cheeks. I love your smile. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing I think about before I fall asleep. See you soon, beautiful. P.S. Bring aspirin for the smile-induced facial muscle strain." Riley literally hugged her phone to her chest and did a little victory dance around her apartment. This was what happiness felt like. Effervescent and warm and so overwhelming she wanted to tell every stranger on the street that she was in love with Cooper Matthews, and he loved her back. She arrived at Matthews Corporation 50 minutes later, practically floating through the marble lobby. The elevator ride that used to fill her with dread now felt like ascending to paradise. Even the elevator music sounded like a love song. Margaret greeted her with a smile so knowing and delighted that Riley wondered if happiness was somehow visible as an aura around her. "Good morning, Miss Summers," Margaret beamed. "My goodness, you look absolutely radiant today. Positively glowing." "Thank you, Margaret. I feel pretty amazing." Riley couldn't keep the joy out of her voice if she tried. "Love will do that," Margaret said with a conspiratorial wink. "Mr. Matthews has been pacing his office for the last 20 minutes, checking his watch every 30 seconds. I haven't seen him this excited since, well, ever. Go right in, dear." Riley knocked and entered to find Cooper standing by his floor-to-ceiling windows. But the moment he heard the door, he spun around with an expression of pure delight. His entire face transformed. The stern CEO mask completely gone, replaced by a man so happy he looked 10 years younger. "There she is," he said, his voice soft with wonder, as he crossed to her in 3 long strides. "My fake girlfriend who became my real girlfriend who defended my honor at Chicago's stuffiest country club, and somehow made me fall completely, hopelessly in love. Your very real girlfriend who has absolutely no idea how to handle dating her intimidatingly handsome boss but is thrilled to figure it out," Riley corrected, going up on her toes to kiss him properly. The kiss was perfect, soft and sweet, and tasting like coffee and new beginnings and the promise of 1,000 more mornings just like this one. When they broke apart, Cooper rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed, like he was savoring the moment. "I dreamed about you last night," he murmured against her lips. Good dream or bad dream? The best dream. We were having breakfast in a kitchen with actual sunlight, not like my sterile penthouse, and you were wearing my shirt and stealing bacon off my plate, and I realized I want that. Every morning. For the rest of my life. Riley's heart stuttered to a complete stop. Cooper. Too much? He asked, pulling back to search her face with worried eyes. I'm moving too fast, aren't I? It's just that I've never felt like this about anyone, and now that I know what this is, I want everything with you. Instead of answering with words, Riley grabbed his tie and pulled him down for another kiss, this one deeper and more urgent and full of all the feelings she couldn't quite articulate yet. When they finally came up for air, Cooper looked dazed and deliriously happy. Is that a, yes, I want breakfast stealing and shirt borrowing too kiss, he asked breathlessly. That's a yes to everything you just said, and also I love you so much it's actually terrifying kiss, Riley said firmly. Cooper's smile could have powered the entire Chicago electrical grid. I love you too. So much that I've already started mentally redecorating my apartment to include your books and that ridiculous collection of coffee mugs shaped like animals. You notice my coffee mugs? Riley, I notice everything about you. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. How you always take the stairs when you're nervous because you think elevators move too slowly. The fact that you keep emergency chocolate in your desk drawer and share it with anyone who looks stressed. Cooper cupped her face gently. I've been noticing you for months. I just didn't realize I was falling in love until you hid under my desk and turned my entire world upside down. About that desk thing, Riley grinned mischievously. I might need to hide under there again sometime. You know, for nostalgia. Cooper's laugh was rich and warm and made Riley want to spend the rest of her life finding new ways to make him happy. Anytime you want, sweetheart. Though next time I'm hiding under there with you. Scandalous. What would the board of directors think? They'd think their CEO is finally genuinely happy. Which reminds me, Cooper's expression grew slightly more serious, though his eyes still sparkled with joy. About the whole boss situation. I've been thinking. When Cooper Matthews thinks entire departments reorganize, should I be worried? Only if you're opposed to the idea of a significant promotion and a cross-country adventure. Cooper's smile was hopeful and slightly nervous. What would you say to a transfer to our Seattle office as regional marketing director? Riley stared at him, her mouth falling open. Seattle. Cooper, that's a huge promotion. Are you offering it because we're dating now? I'm offering it because you're brilliant and innovative, and you've been ready for advancement for months, he said firmly. I've been planning this promotion since before we started our fake relationship. Ask Margaret. She's got the paperwork dated from 3 weeks ago. But Seattle is across the country. It's also where I've been considering expanding our Pacific Northwest operations. Someone would need to oversee that expansion from the ground up, build a whole new regional team. Cooper's smile grew more confident. Someone with exceptional marketing skills, natural leadership abilities, and a proven talent for handling complete chaos with grace and humor. Riley felt her heart start racing, but this time it was excitement rather than panic. Are you asking me to move across the country with you? I'm asking if you'd be interested in building something amazing together, both professionally and personally. Seattle office first, then... Cooper reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box that made Riley's knees nearly buckle. Then maybe we can talk about making this even more permanent. Cooper Matthews, Riley whispered, staring at the box. Are you... I'm not proposing, he said quickly, then paused. Well, not yet. This is more of a promise ring. A someday soon ring, when you're ready and we've figured out the Seattle thing ring. Riley started laughing, the kind of pure, joyful laughter that bubbles up from your soul when life becomes more wonderful than you ever dared imagine. You bought me a someday ring? I bought you a Cooper Matthews is completely head over heels in love and wants to marry you, but understands that we've been real dating for approximately 12 hours ring. Cooper opened the box to reveal a stunning vintage-style diamond surrounded by small sapphires. The sapphires match your eyes when you're happy, which is what I want to see every day for the rest of my life. It's perfect, Riley breathed, then looked up at him with tears of pure happiness in her eyes. You're perfect. This is all perfect. Yes to Seattle. Yes to building something amazing together. And yes to someday. Cooper slipped the ring onto her right hand, and it fit like it was made for her. When you're ready to move it to your left hand, just say the word. What if I'm ready sooner than you think? Then I'll be the luckiest man in Chicago, and eventually Seattle. Cooper kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. I love you, Riley Summers, more than I knew it was possible to love someone. I love you too, Cooper Matthews, even if you are completely insane for falling in love with the woman who hid under your desk. Especially because of that, Cooper corrected, then paused as they heard voices in the outer office. Speaking of which, I think we might have visitors. Before Riley could ask what he meant, Cooper's office door burst open, and Amanda practically tumbled inside, followed by a more sedate but equally determined Patricia. Cooper James Matthews, Amanda announced dramatically, stopping short when she saw Riley's position in Cooper's arms. Oh, were we interrupting something important? Very important, Cooper said solemnly, not releasing Riley. We were discussing Seattle real estate and the logistics of long-distance relationships. Patricia closed the door behind them and studied her son's face with the sharp eyes of a mother who'd raised 2 children and knew exactly when they were being evasive. And I may have given Riley a ring, Cooper admitted, his cheeks flushing slightly. A ring? Amanda shrieked, then immediately clapped her hands over her mouth. Sorry, I meant to be cool about this. A ring? Really? Riley held up her right hand, where the sapphires caught the morning light streaming through Cooper's windows. Both women gasped in unison. Oh, sweetheart, Patricia said softly, moving closer to examine the ring. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a promise ring, Riley explained quickly. A someday when we're ready ring. Which could be sooner rather than later if I have anything to say about it, Cooper added, earning a sharp look from his mother. Cooper, you've been really dating this girl for less than 24 hours, Patricia said with exaggerated patience. But I've been falling in love with her for months, Cooper replied firmly. I just didn't realize it until she defended our relationship to Veronica last night. Amanda bounced excitedly. This is the most romantic thing ever. But wait, what's this about Seattle? Riley and Cooper exchanged glances. Then Cooper launched into an explanation of the promotion offer, the expansion plans, and their decision to build a future together on the West Coast. By the time he finished, both women were staring at them with expressions of pure delight. So you're moving across the country together, Amanda said slowly. Riley's moving for an amazing career opportunity, Cooper corrected. I'm moving because I can't imagine being anywhere she's not. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said, Riley whispered, going up on her toes to kiss him again. I'm just getting started, Cooper murmured against her lips. All right, you two, Patricia interrupted, though she was smiling widely. As much as I love seeing my son deliriously happy, we actually came here for a reason. What reason? Cooper asked, not taking his eyes off Riley. We came to get the truth, Amanda said firmly. The real story, not the carefully edited version you gave us yesterday. Patricia settled into one of Cooper's expensive chairs like she was preparing for a long story. Because while your relationship may have started as whatever it was, what we witnessed last night was definitely, completely real. Riley and Cooper looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that couples develop when they know each other's thoughts. How did you know? Riley asked finally. Sweetheart, Patricia said gently, I've been married for 37 years and raised 2 children. You think I can't tell the difference between acting and genuine, honest-to-goodness love? Plus, Amanda added with a knowing grin, Cooper's been completely different this past week. Happier, more relaxed, more human. He actually whistled in the elevator yesterday. Cooper doesn't whistle. I whistle, Cooper protested. You've never whistled in your entire life, Amanda shot back. Mom, remember when he was 12 and tried to learn? It sounded like a dying bird. It's true, darling, Patricia agreed fondly. You're many wonderful things, but musical isn't one of them. Riley started giggling, which turned into full-blown laughter at the indignant expression on Cooper's face. Soon Amanda was laughing too, then Patricia, and finally even Cooper was chuckling. Fine, fine, Cooper said when they'd all calmed down. You want the whole truth? Here's the whole truth. And he told them everything. The office gossip that started it all, Riley's panicked hiding under his desk, his desperate proposal for a fake relationship, the way their feelings had grown despite themselves, the country club disaster that had forced them to face reality. Riley filled in her side of the story, describing her terror at meeting his family, her growing attraction to the man behind the CEO mask, her realization that defending their fake relationship felt completely real. By the end, both women were staring at them with expressions of absolute delight and wonder. That, Amanda announced, is officially the most romantic story in the history of romantic stories. You fell in love while pretending to be in love, Patricia mused. It's like something out of a movie, a really good movie that I would watch multiple times and cry happy tears every single time. We didn't fall in love, Riley protested automatically, then caught Cooper's expression. Okay, fine. We totally fell in love. Completely, utterly, ridiculously in love, Cooper confirmed, his voice rough with emotion. So in love, it's actually embarrassing, Riley added, grinning widely. I love embarrassing love, Amanda declared. It's the best kind. And I'm definitely planning your wedding. Amanda, Cooper warned. Fine, fine, but I'm absolutely planning the engagement party and the bridal shower, and definitely the most epic bachelorette party Seattle has ever seen. We literally just admitted we're in love, Riley laughed. The engagement is still theoretical. Details, Patricia waved dismissively. Cooper, your father and I would like to take you both to dinner this weekend, somewhere special, to celebrate. Celebrate what exactly? Cooper asked. Our son finding someone who makes him genuinely, radiantly happy, Patricia said simply. Really, truly can't stop smiling happy. A knock at the door interrupted the family celebration. Margaret's voice came through the intercom, sounding slightly frazzled. Mr. Matthews, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but there are reporters here again, and photographers. Something about wanting to interview Chicago's newest power couple? They're saying something about a country club incident last night? The four of them stared at each other in mutual panic. Reporters? Riley squeaked. Already? How did they find out about last night so fast? Veronica, Cooper said grimly. I guarantee she called every gossip columnist in the city the moment we left. So what do we do? Amanda asked. Hide? Deny everything? Fake Cooper's death and flee to Canada? Actually, Riley said slowly, an idea forming. What if we just told them the truth? Cooper looked at her like she'd suggested they perform interpretive dance in the lobby. The truth? The whole truth? Why not? It's an amazing story. Executive and employee fake a relationship to stop office gossip, end up falling in love for real, get engaged after knowing they're really dating for less than 24 hours. It's romantic, it's funny, it's completely human. The press would absolutely eat it up, Amanda agreed excitedly. It's like a real-life romantic comedy. People love that stuff. Patricia nodded thoughtfully. It would certainly put Veronica's nose out of joint. She's probably spinning all sorts of malicious stories about gold diggers and office affairs. Cooper considered this, studying Riley's face carefully. Are you absolutely sure you want our story splashed across every newspaper and magazine in Chicago? As long as it's our real story, Riley said firmly. No more pretending. No more fake anything. Just us, being honest about how we accidentally fell in love while trying to fake it. Cooper's smile could have lit up the entire city. All right then. Let's go tell the world how I fell head over heels for the woman who hid under my desk and changed my entire life. 30 minutes later, they were sitting in Matthews Corporation's largest conference room, across from 3 reporters, 2 photographers, and what appeared to be a small television crew from a local morning show. Riley had never seen so many recording devices in one place, but Cooper's hand was warm and steady in hers, and his presence made her feel like she could handle anything. "So let me make sure I understand this correctly," the reporter from the Chicago Tribune said, pen poised over her notepad. "You two started fake dating to stop office gossip, but ended up really falling in love?" "That's exactly what happened," Riley confirmed, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "And the incident at Lakewood Country Club last night, where Miss Summers publicly defended your relationship. That," Cooper said, bringing Riley's hand to his lips to kiss her knuckles, "was the moment I knew she wasn't just defending our fake relationship anymore. She was defending us, the real us." "How could you tell the difference?" the Chicago Magazine reporter asked. Riley and Cooper looked at each other, sharing one of those moments where entire conversations happened in a glance, where love was visible in the space between heartbeats. "Because," Riley said softly, never taking her eyes off Cooper, "when something is real, you can feel it in every cell of your body. When he kisses me, when he holds my hand, when he looks at me like I'm the most precious thing in his universe, there's nothing fake about that. And when she stands up for us, when she makes me laugh until my sides hurt, when she turns my perfectly controlled world into beautiful chaos," Cooper added, his voice thick with emotion. "That's not performance, that's love. Pure, honest, couldn't fake it if I tried love." The photographer's camera clicked rapidly, but Riley barely noticed. She was too busy falling even deeper in love with the man who'd started as her intimidating boss and become her entire world. "Miss Summers," the morning show host said, "what would you say to people who might think this is all a publicity stunt?" Riley laughed, the sound bright and genuine. "I'd say you obviously haven't seen Cooper Matthews try to fake anything. The man color codes his socks and has never told a lie in his life. If this were a publicity stunt, it would involve charts and PowerPoint presentations and a detailed timeline." "She's not wrong," Cooper admitted, with a rueful smile. "I once created a spreadsheet to decide what to order for lunch." "He really did," Riley confirmed. "It had columns for nutritional value, cost efficiency, and flavor satisfaction ratings." "That sounds like a very thorough approach to lunch," the Tribune reporter said, trying not to smile. "It was completely ridiculous," Riley said fondly. "That's when I knew I was in trouble. Any woman who finds a lunch spreadsheet adorable is clearly falling hard." "And when did you know you were in love, Mr. Matthews?" Cooper was quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing patterns on Riley's hand. "There were a lot of moments. When she brought me coffee without being asked. When she laughed at my terrible jokes. When she stood up to Veronica Ashford last night like a warrior defending her territory." He paused, his eyes soft with memory. "But I think the exact moment I knew was when she hid under my desk that first day. She was terrified and embarrassed and completely out of her element, but she looked up at me with these incredible eyes and said, 'I can totally explain this.' And I thought, this woman is going to change everything." "And she did?" the morning show host prompted. "She changed everything," Cooper confirmed. "My apartment doesn't look like a museum anymore. I actually leave the office before 8 p.m. sometimes. I laugh more in a single day now than I used to laugh in a month. She made me remember that there's more to life than quarterly reports and board meetings. What about you, Miss Summers? When did you know?" Riley felt her cheeks warm as she remembered. "Yesterday morning, when he brought me coffee from that fancy cafe downtown. Not because he was trying to impress anyone, but because he'd noticed I was stressed about the fake relationship thing. He just wanted to take care of me. That's when I realized this wasn't fake anymore, at least not for me." "And now you're engaged?" the Chicago Magazine reporter asked, gesturing to Riley's ring. "Promise ring," Cooper corrected quickly. "We've been really dating for approximately 18 hours. I'm romantic, not completely insane. Although," Riley added with a mischievous smile, "if he asked me right now, I'd probably say yes." The room went completely silent. Cooper's eyes widened, and for a moment he looked like he was seriously considering dropping to one knee right there in front of 3 news crews. "Riley," he said carefully. "I'm just saying," she continued, enjoying the way his face was cycling through about 12 different emotions. "When you know, right? Are you actually—" Cooper's usually perfect composure was completely shot. Riley took pity on him and squeezed his hand. "I'm saying I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone, and I can't wait to see what our future looks like together, whether that's 6 months from now or 6 years from now." Cooper's relief was visible, followed immediately by such pure adoration that several of the reporters sighed audibly. "I love you too," he said simply. "More than spreadsheets, more than quarterly projections, more than perfectly organized filing systems." "That's true love right there," Amanda called out from the back of the room where she'd been watching with Patricia. The interviews continued for another hour, with questions about their Seattle plans, their families' reactions, and their advice for other couples. Through it all, Riley marveled at how easy it was to talk about their relationship when it was real, when every word was true, when love was the foundation instead of pretense. As the news crews packed up their equipment, the Tribune reporter approached them one last time. "I have to say, in 20 years of covering Chicago business news, this is the most genuinely happy couple I've ever interviewed," she said warmly. "You two are going to make a lot of people believe in real love again." "Good," Riley said firmly. "The world needs more real love." After everyone had left and the conference room had emptied, Riley found herself alone with Cooper, both of them slightly dazed by the media whirlwind. "We just told the entire city of Chicago that we're in love," Cooper said, as if testing how the words sounded. "We did," Riley confirmed. "Any regrets?" Instead of answering, Cooper stood up and walked around the table to where she was sitting. Without a word, he knelt down in front of her chair, taking her hands in his. "Riley Summers," he said solemnly, "we've done everything backwards. We fake dated before we real dated. We fell in love before we had our first real kiss. We're planning to move across the country together before we've been to a single movie." He paused, his eyes dancing with mischief and love. "So I figured, why not continue the tradition? Cooper, what are you—" "Marry me," he said simply. "Not someday. Not when we're ready. Now. Soon. As soon as we can plan a wedding that makes Amanda happy and doesn't give my mother a heart attack." Riley stared at him, her heart hammering so hard she was sure everyone in the building could hear it. "Are you serious?" "I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I know it's crazy. I know we've been really dating for less than a day. But Riley, I've been yours since the moment you crawled out from under my desk and turned my world upside down. I don't want to wait to start our life together. The reporters are probably still in the building," Riley said weakly. "Let them hear. Let everyone hear." Cooper's voice was strong and sure and full of love. "Riley Summers, I love you more than anything in this world. Will you marry me?" Riley looked down at this incredible man, kneeling in a corporate conference room, proposing marriage after the most chaotic, wonderful, ridiculous courtship in history. Her heart was so full of love and joy and pure happiness that she thought she might actually explode from it. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, of course, yes." Cooper surged to his feet and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying and kissing all at the same time. When he finally set her down, Riley realized they had an audience. Margaret was standing in the doorway with tears streaming down her face. Patricia and Amanda were clutching each other and sobbing happy tears, and at least 3 other employees were peeking around the doorframe. "She said yes," Cooper announced to their impromptu audience, his voice ringing with pure joy. The cheer that went up could probably be heard in Wisconsin. "I'm planning the wedding," Amanda shouted over the celebration. "We're all planning the wedding," Patricia corrected. "This is going to be the most beautiful celebration Chicago has ever seen." As their families and colleagues surrounded them with congratulations and happy tears, Riley looked up at Cooper, her fiancé, her future husband, her partner in chaos and love and everything that mattered. "No more fake anything," she said softly, just for him. No more fake anything, he agreed, sealing the promise with a kiss that tasted like forever. And if the Chicago Tribune's evening edition featured a front-page story about the CEO who proposed in a conference room to the marketing director who'd stolen his heart, complete with a photo of their joyful, tearful, completely authentic celebration, well, that was just the perfect ending to the most beautifully real love story Chicago had ever seen. 6 months later, the Seattle office of Matthews Corporation was buzzing with pre-wedding excitement, and Riley sat in her new corner office, complete with a view of Puget Sound and a door that actually locked, trying to focus on quarterly projections instead of the fact that in 3 days she'd be marrying Cooper Matthews. Her assistant knocked and peeked in. "Riley, your fiancé is here with coffee and that smile that makes all the female employees forget how to function." Riley grinned. "Send him in, Jessica, and maybe circulate a memo reminding everyone that excessive swooning is unprofessional." "I'll get right on that," Jessica said dryly, "though you might want to look in a mirror before you criticize anyone else's swooning." Cooper appeared in her doorway, looking unfairly handsome in a navy suit, carrying 2 cups from their favorite Seattle coffee shop, and wearing an expression of such complete happiness that Riley's heart still skipped a beat every time she saw him. "Good morning, my beautiful fiancé," he said, setting her coffee on her desk and leaning down to kiss her properly. "How's the most talented regional marketing director on the West Coast doing today?" "She's wondering how she got so lucky," Riley murmured against his lips, and also trying not to think about the fact that in 72 hours, she'll be walking down an aisle toward the most amazing man in the world. Only 72 hours. Cooper settled on the edge of her desk, a habit he'd developed that made Riley's entire staff swoon on a regular basis. "I've been counting down in minutes. 4,320 in case you were wondering." "You counted?" "I made a spreadsheet." Riley burst out laughing. "Cooper Matthews, you made a spreadsheet for our wedding countdown?" "Color-coded by categories. Time until ceremony, tasks remaining, probability of Amanda's emotional breakdowns." Cooper's smile was sheepish but unrepentant. "Old habits." "I love your old habits," Riley said firmly. "All of them, even the obsessive organization and the sock color coding and the way you alphabetize our takeout menus." "And I love your new habits," Cooper replied. "Like stealing my shirts on Sunday mornings and leaving coffee rings on my furniture and hiding under my desk when you want to surprise me." "That only happened twice." "Best twice of my entire life," Cooper said solemnly, then leaned down to kiss her forehead. "Speaking of which, I have a surprise for you." "What kind of surprise?" Instead of answering, Cooper walked over to her office door and locked it, then moved to her desk and dropped to his hands and knees, disappearing underneath. "Cooper Matthews, what are you doing?" Riley asked, though she was already laughing. "Hiding under your desk," his muffled voice replied. "Come join me, for old time's sake." Riley shook her head, still giggling, but kicked off her heels and crawled under her desk to find Cooper sitting cross-legged in the small space, grinning at her like a complete lunatic. "This is where it all started," he said softly, reaching for her hands. "Under a desk?" "Under my desk, with you looking terrified and beautiful, and completely changing my life without even trying." Cooper brought her hands to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For hiding under my desk, for agreeing to fake date me, for falling in love with me despite all logical evidence that I'm a controlling, obsessive workaholic with no sense of fun." "Hey," Riley said firmly, "you have a great sense of fun. You're hiding under a desk in the middle of a workday. That's pretty fun." "Only because of you," Cooper said. "You taught me how to be happy, Riley. Really, truly, ridiculously happy." "You want to know a secret?" Riley scooted closer until they were sitting knee to knee in the cramped space under her desk. "Always. I was happy before I met you, but I didn't know what real happiness was until I fell in love with you. You didn't just change my life, Cooper. You made it beautiful." They sat there for a moment in comfortable silence, surrounded by office furniture and the sound of Seattle traffic outside, holding hands in the space where their love story had begun. 3 more days, Cooper said softly. 3 more days until I get to call you my husband, Riley agreed. 3 more days until we start the rest of our lives together. The best lives, Riley said firmly, full of love and laughter and probably a few more desk-hiding incidents. Cooper's laugh filled the small space, rich and warm and full of joy. I can't wait. Me neither. And as Chicago's favorite fake relationship turned real love story sat under a desk in Seattle, planning their future and reveling in their present, Riley realized that sometimes the best things in life really did start with complete disasters. After all, if she hadn't been running from office gossip, she never would have hidden under Cooper's desk. If she hadn't hidden under his desk, they never would have made their fake dating deal. If they hadn't fake dated, they never would have discovered that what they really wanted was each other. Hey, Cooper? Yeah, sweetheart. When we're old and gray and telling our grandchildren this story, do you think they'll believe that we fell in love while pretending to be in love? Cooper's smile was so bright it could have powered all of Seattle. They'll believe it, because we'll still be just as crazy about each other then as we are right now. Promise? I promise to love you, hide under desks with you, and be ridiculously happy with you for the rest of our lives, Cooper said solemnly. That's a pretty big promise. Good thing I'm planning to keep it. And as they kissed under Riley's desk in their Seattle office, surrounded by quarterly reports and coffee cups, and all the beautiful chaos of their shared life, they knew that their love story was just beginning. The best stories, after all, start with once upon a time, and end with happily ever after. But the very best stories, the real ones, the ones that last, start with complete disasters and end with choosing each other, again and again, every single day. The end.